Hi, I'm Jonathan J, and on this video I'm going to tell you whether it's possible to buy a business for just £1. There's always a lot of discussion about whether it's really possible to buy a business for £1, or is it one of those mythological situations that everyone talks about but no one actually does. So on this video I'm going to explain the situations where you would buy a business where you don't actually put any money into the deal. Now, are they frequent or are they rare? Well, it depends how hard you look and how long you look for. I mean, you can find businesses to buy for £1 pretty much all the time if you're looking all of the time. But if you don't look very hard, they probably are rather hard to come by. But you do read about them in the newspapers. You read about Homebase, who was sold to Hilco for just £1 a couple of years ago. Now, the situation in that case was that there was a lot of debt, there were a lot of issues, and for that £1 consideration, the new owners take on all those problems. And that is actually the most frequent situation where you would buy a £1 business. You are willing to take on the problems and the challenges that the business has. Now, before that fills you with horror, I want you to consider that it's always easier to solve someone else's problems than it is to solve your own. So the seller of this business who wants to get out, doesn't want any money for the business, wants to hand you the keys and leave you with all the issues that have been driving him crazy, those situations are where the seller is highly motivated because of some pressure, whether it's an emotional pressure, whether it's a family pressure, whether it's a financial pressure, to move on. So let me give you an example of a business that I bought for £1 a couple of years back. It was owned by a private equity company. It turned over £4.75 million a year. About 3 years earlier, it'd been doing £8 to £9 million, so it was on a decline. Overheads were out of control. The management were very, very poor. In actual fact, the management, the executive team and their assistants, and I kid you not, the assistants had assistants as well, they actually created a layer of £1 million of cost in the business every single year. So the costs were out of control, but fundamentally it was a decent business. You see, of that £4.75 million of revenue, £3 million of that revenue was recurring, by which I mean they were subscriptions. So that £3 million happened every year, year in, year out, and it had done for many, many years in the past as well. So fundamentally underneath it was actually a decent business, but it was very, very poorly managed and very, very poorly run. So why would the owners want to sell it to me for £1? As I said, they were private equity owners. The business was part of a fund, so it was part of a group of businesses that fund had invested in, and it was coming up to the end of the lifetime of the fund. So what the investors in the fund need to see is a return on their investment. So something needs to happen to all the businesses in the fund. They're either sold or closed down or moved on in the way I'm going to describe to you. So I came along just at the right time, talking to the right people at the right time. It always looks like luck from the outside, but in actual fact I'd been talking to a lot of people all the time. So opportunity and preparation met, and talking to someone at a dinner, I found out about this opportunity. And I approached them and I said, look, you've got a business, it's out of control, it's making a trading loss, it's got a negative balance sheet. I'm prepared to take that off your hands, but I'm not going to pay you for the privilege of doing so, because I'm going to be the one with all the problems, and you can just close that chapter in your lives once and for all. The business has caused them an awful lot of stress, changes of management. It really just wasn't worth it from their perspective. So we did the deal. I'd like to say it was simple. It wasn't simple at all. But eventually we managed to acquire this business for actually £2, £1 for the shares and £1 for the debt. So I bought the loan notes in the business, owed back to the private equity owners for £1, and now the business actually owed me £20 million, which is what the private equity people had paid for it 5 years earlier. So that was the value. 5 years earlier, it was worth millions, but on this particular occasion, they were just selling it to me for £1. So I went about restructuring it. It was in a terrible, terrible state. There were some redundancies because it was overstaffed. That management team that I mentioned earlier, they went, and I ended up with a smaller business because all we did was keep the recurring revenue, so a 3 million of recurring revenue, but highly, highly, highly profitable. Now, to give you a timeline on this, I bought the business on May the 3rd on 1 year, and I sold it less than 12 months later on March the 24th the following year for a very strong 7-figure sum. So I got a millions of return investment on my £1 or my £2 initial upfront money. Now, is this something that anyone can do? Well, it all depends. If you don't know what you're doing, no, you can't do this. If you've never run a business before with no business experience, no, you can't do this. If you don't have courage and tenacity, no, you cannot do this. If you don't have a deal team, a support team of people who know what they're doing around you, no, you cannot do this. But you can do it if you look hard enough for the deal, if you know how to structure the deal, if you know how to make the approach to the owner, if you have the guts to pull it off, yes, you can do this. Now, are these deals out there every single day? Well, they might well be, but you're not going to find one every single day. You might find one a year. But if you can find one £1 deal a year, buy it, spend 11 months tinkering with it and improving it and restructuring it to have something of value, and then sell it on to someone else, could you make a lot of money doing that? Well, yes, of course you can, and plenty of people do. Can anyone do it? Well, no, I don't think anyone can do it unless you have all of those qualities that I mentioned earlier. So are £1 deals possible? Yes, of course they are. Are they out there? Yes, they are. But if you know what to do, that is when you can take advantage of them. Now, I hope this has been useful to you. If you'd like to find out more about buying a business, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and you will receive a notification every time I release a new video. Thanks for watching.